The thing here, it will burst 100%. The thing is when this will happen. And like I told you in the beginning, the earliest will be September, October 21. Approximately my biggest bet is February 2022.
And in today's video I will retrace my steps and show you what made me so convinced that this crash will happen. Because in order for us to see into the future, we must know what happened in the past, right? What's up investors, it's the Russian dude, and in today's video I will summarize more than 10 hours of my past live streams into this 10-15 minute or however long it will be video.
What's up investors, it's the Russian dude from the future, as you can see by my haircut, and apparently the video is way longer than just 10 minutes. It is in fact 40 plus minutes. So instead of uploading it all at once, because come on, no one is gonna see 40 plus minute video at once, I decided to break it in 4 parts and upload them subsequently. And at the end of each video, I'll be putting a link to the next video, so it's way easier for you to see them all. Okay, and now back to the video. Because just like all the other YouTubers say, I watch 10 hours, so you don't have to. And by the way, make sure to clap this like button and subscribe to my channel, because I still do these live streams every single Friday. So, as you can see right here, my whole conviction about stock market crashing in the nearest future started with the possibility of the Federal Reserve increasing the interest rates, which were incredibly low, which are still, by the way, incredibly low. They're at 0.25%. And this was the response from the Federal Reserve as soon as the virus situation basically happened, and in order to stimulate the economy, they lowered the interest rates, which is basically how cheap or how expensive it is to borrow money. These interest rates, they influence bank rates, credit card loans, mortgages, car loans, all of this is influenced by the Federal Reserve rates, which are once again at extremely low level of 0.25%. Also, in addition to helping economy to overcome the crisis, the money printer started. There was so much money printed during these times. It's, as you can see from this slide, the line goes almost vertical, which basically an absolute nonsense, if you want to call it like this, something that we haven't seen during the whole history of the Federal Reserve, all the way from the 60s, for as long as these graphs go into the past. So, and the reason for Jerome Powell obviously printing the money was to stimulate the economy, which is so-called professionally quantitative easing. And he said that he will be printing money for as long as needed. And then he started to be, let's say, some more specific. And he said, I'll be printing money for as long as there is for as long as we cannot achieve low unemployment rate. Which basically looks like, in his words, it means that as soon as we haven't reached 0% unemployment, the money printer will never stop, which basically means as soon as every single person will be working, I'll be printing and printing and printing money. Obviously, this is impossible condition to achieve. And as you can see, yes, obviously, at the beginning of pandemic, the unemployment rate reached all the way to 15%, which is a huge number, to be honest. But then gradually it went down, and now we're almost certainly, I would say, at pre-pandemic levels. So thankfully, he said that, okay, we're gonna slow down the taper, but I think it was too late that he said it, because at this very moment the inflation is already at 7%, which is the highest inflation we've seen in 40 plus years, and this is a huge number, don't get me wrong. So, originally, he said that he will slow down the printer approximately, and slowing money printer means that they'll be buying less mortgage-backed securities and all the other fixed income assets, such as, for example, treasuries, let's say, okay? So he will slow down buying them, and this will reduce the money that's entering in the system. So long story short, it was originally $120 billion per month worth of mortgage-backed securities, treasuries, and all this kind of stuff that was poured into the market, and he was supposed to slow it down by $30 billion per month. And now, the new date for the money printer to stop is somewhere approximately in the middle end of March of 2022. So this is the first step in quantitative tightening, which is also so-called tapering. First step is to slow down the money printer, and the second step is to increase the interest rates. And this once again was my thesis since the beginning, that as soon as the interest rates go up, even before this, as soon as it is assumed that the interest rates will go up, this is when the markets start being very turbulent. And I'm going to explain why I think so in a minute.
But we are speaking a little bit more about the past. Because of so much money, because of so little interest rates, as you can see, financial conditions were extremely loose, which basically means that it was extremely cheap to borrow money, to lend money, to just get money for companies, for individuals, for, I don't know, government, for everyone else. Everything was so cheap. Not everything, but borrowing money was extremely cheap. So, and banks, because they were receiving so much money, they didn't even know what to do with all this money. So they were engaging in so-called repo market, which basically means they were giving away money back to the government. So as you can see, originally, government gives money to the bank, and then bank gives back money to the government because it simply doesn't know what to do with this. It just lies idly on the balance sheet, doing nothing, not producing any revenue. And so this overnight repo was giving them at least 0.05%. So at least something. And at some point, as you can see from this graph, which is once again went vertical, the overnight repo market reached $1.8 trillion, which is an extremely huge amount. So another thing about easily accessible money and so much money to the system, all the stimulus checks, support, which were a good thing to do because people were struggling, people were losing jobs. So obviously stimulus checks were very good. So lots of people entered the market. Lots of new people, I would even say, entered the market. As you can see, since the beginning of the pandemic, which was in the March of 2020, once again, the inflows to equities just literally went vertical. In the rolling past 12 months, the accumulated inflow, the combined inflow to the equities market was but exceeding $1 trillion, which means that this is how much money people plus corporations basically, which is how much money was invested into the market, which as you can see is insane. Even in 2008, after 2008, it has never reached more than $400 billion in 12 months combined. This time it was $1.1 trillion. Thanks to all this helicopter money, Robin Hood boys, all the financial YouTubers, which were at least thinking about that they're doing a good thing, which basically means that they were promoting personal finance. But at the same time, they were creating this army of cultists, and I'm not saying every single one of you is an army of cultists. I'm just saying that so many people just were investing in companies that they had no idea about. That just because some YouTuber said, hey, you need to invest in this, hey, you need to invest in that. Okay, I don't care that this company is completely unprofitable, I just think it's cool, so invest in this. And so many people were investing in companies like this, which is also another factor why the stock market crashed, and which one I also, saw coming. And I'm also going to talk about this in a moment. And so all these inflows into the equities created that the household ownership of US equities became once again vertical line. In 1999, right in the middle of the dot-com bubble, the household ownership of the equities was approximately, $10 trillion, maybe even less. According to this, around $9 trillion. At the peak of this crisis, of this pandemic, ownership of equities by households in the US, which basically means us, regular people, we had almost $30 trillion invested into the stock market. And besides this, some people were just investing, excessive money, which is the good thing, which is how you're supposed to do. Just invest what you can afford to lose at the beginning, or basically at any point of investing career. But so many people, once again, because of listening to some YouTubers like Kit Mavin, Nomtash, you know them all, because of this, so many people, and even though the second YouTuber I mentioned, no offense, no hard feelings, I know you never promote margin, I just said your name to give you a shout out, whatever. And so, long story short, these YouTubers promoted also the use of margin. As you can see from this slide, some people were even taking margin to trade on the stock market. They literally went inside the stock market for the first time in their lives. They have never seen any major correction or crash, and because they saw how easy it is to make money into the market, because literally everything was going up, they started to take margin. Some of them were even maybe refinancing their homes, getting second mortgages just to trade on the stock market. I know this is less than 1% of people did this, but this is just insane to even think about this. And as a result, some personal savings rate, personal savings rate on average across US went significantly down. People didn't know what to do with this money. People also had maybe something saved in the past, but now because they saw how easy it is to make money in the stock market, they started putting almost everything they had into the stock market just to make more money. Of course, once again, that's not the case for every single person, but still, this is what we see on this graph, that people started having way less savings than they used to before the pandemic.